and welcome back to Touchdown Tea. My name's Nicky, and this is a special edition of Touchdown Tea because the Ravens are playing the Steelers on Sunday, which means this is Steelers Hate Week. So I've got my Ravens jersey on, and I'm ready to give you my preview of Ravens Steelers on Sunday. But before that, I'm going to be getting into the big news for the Ravens fans this week. It's been a couple of weeks of lots of big news for Ravens, but we got another big news item this week, and that is the re-signing of left tackle Ronnie Stanley. I'm sure all Ravens fans are delighted by the news that we've locked up Ronnie Stanley for another 5 years. He's a very popular Raven. He's a very high performing Raven, very reliable player. And I, for one, I'm extremely excited it's been done. I give all props to Eric DeCosta for getting this done. And also props to Ronnie. I'm glad that he wants to stay in Baltimore. I'm glad that he wants to stay with the Ravens, that he sees a lot of opportunity with this team. And it's a place he wants to be. So that's great news for him, great news for the Ravens, and great news for us fans. So let's get into dissecting the contract. So the left tackle, who we've come to affectionately know as Megatronny, has signed a 5-year extension with the Ravens, which is worth $98.75 million in new money. Now, that works out about $19.75 million as an average per year. And of that money in that contract, about $68 million is guaranteed. That makes him the second highest paid left tackle in the NFL after, interestingly, Laremy Tunsil. Laremy Tunsil signed a contract with the Texans last season, which was a 3-year extension and worked out at $66 million with about $50 million guaranteed. So there's quite a big discrepancy there. Laremy is making $22 million per year compared to just under 20 for Ronnie. And also Laramie's getting $50 million guaranteed over 3 years, whereas Ronnie's getting 68 over 5. So of course that works out as more guaranteed money for Laramie over a shorter period of time in terms of per year. Now, the reason that's interesting is because lots of you will remember that Laremy Tunsil and Ronnie Stanley were both drafted in 2016, and they were both amongst the highest graded offensive tackles in that draft. Now, if you remember leading up to that draft, Laremy Tunsil was pretty much the unanimous number 1 offensive tackle prospect in that draft. And the Ravens went into the draft with the number 6 pick and were desperate for a tackle help. If you remember before that, the line was struggling the year before. It was clear the Ravens needed a tackle. It was clear the Ravens were going to take a tackle. There were good tackles in the draft. And Laremy Tunsil was one of the biggest options. Now, what happened in that draft was that Laremy Tunsil was, at some point, he was rumoured to go number 1 in the draft. He ended up falling on draft night. Some of you will remember that there was that weird video that got leaked of him smoking weed out of some kind of gas mask. And that set draft and NFL Twitter ablaze, and people started talking about the controversy. He had to put a statement out on it. And then what ended up happening was he fell on the night and ended up going to Miami Dolphins after other teams passed on him for various reasons. And the Ravens were one of the teams that passed on him. So we don't know if the Ravens were planning to take Laremy Tunsil before, but anyway, on the night, it seemed like Ravens passed and went with Ronnie Stanley instead. Now, it's turned out to be a great decision. We can't say that Laremy Tunsil's career has been terrible or anything like that. It hasn't been. He's played well, but I think Ronnie Stanley has been even better. And Laremy was able to get that contract from the Houston Texans because he had them over a barrel. Bill O'Brien, the GM genius, made the trade for him, didn't tie him down to a contract at the time he traded. So it meant that they'd given up loads of draft picks to get him, 2 1s from they gave to Miami, and they had to sign him to a contract because you can't give up 2 1s and not extend someone. So he could pretty much get any money he wanted from them. And that's what happened. Ronnie has decided to take less money than Laremy Tunsil to stay with the Ravens, and he obviously wants to be in a Ravens uniform going forward. So this is great news for us. Some stats on Ronnie Stanley's 2019 season. So he was a first-team All-Pro left tackle. which is just amazing. And the first time we've had a player in that position since Jonathan Ogden, who, of course, has gone on to the Hall of Fame and is an all-time great Raven and all-time great left tackle. And in 2019, Ronnie played so well, he did not give up a single sack on the whole season. And not only that, he only gave up 6 QB pressures all season across all 16 games. And according to Pro Football Focus, that's the first time that's been done by a tackle in the 14 years they've been collecting stats or data on that subject. So that just shows you how well he played last year. He's a player in his prime, he's 26. This is a great deal for the Ravens. And if, like me, you were looking at Lamar Jackson having to be paid in a couple seasons, Marlon Humphrey having to be extended, Ronnie having to be extended, I was worried. I was wondering, how we're already up against the cap. How are we going to manage all this and keep all these players? And so far, that's now 2 down. Ronnie and Marlon both been extended. Lamar will come, and I have all the confidence in the world in Eric DeCosta to do that, manage the cap, and make it work for the team, while still being able to have money and the ability to go out and get free agents that the team needs. Now, on to the big game of the weekend, which is Ravens Steelers, which is strangely in the early kickoff time. You'd expect a big rivalry game like that to be in a primetime position, but no, it's not, but it doesn't matter. Most important thing is the game itself and that the Ravens get the win. So Ravens go into this game as 4.5 point favourites. I've been looking at some of the conversation from analysts over the last week, looking at who's going to win, what people are thinking. It's split, but Ravens seem to be generally more favoured by the experts and analysts. I have to be honest, I'm not the most optimistic Ravens fan. I'm always nervous as a sports fan in general, and I often am loath to pick wins in close games, in tight games like this, because I just don't want to be let down. But I do have some confidence in this game, and I really feel like the offense has to step up, and the team will be really, really keen to show more offensively than they have recently. The problem is here, the Ravens are going up against a really, really good defense in the Steelers. So both defenses here on show are going to be great. So this is going to be a really interesting game with 2 truly excellent defenses playing against each other. So we've got the Ravens, who are right now this season first in fewest points allowed, and the Steelers, who are 6th in fewest points allowed, whereas the Pittsburgh Steelers are first in sacks and the Ravens are 2nd in sacks. So both these defenses are miserly in terms of giving up points and also really, really aggressive in getting to the opposing quarterback. So a question in this game is, how will the Ravens' offensive line match up with the Steelers' pass rush? As I just said, the Steelers are first in the league in sacks, and the Ravens' O-line, as we've discussed in previous videos and as all Ravens fans can see, is not quite at the level it was last season. So we have to wonder, how will this team cope with the Steelers' pass rush? Devin Bush is out for the Steelers, the linebacker, so that's a big miss. He's done for the year. But the Steelers have got a ferocious pass rush. They've got some serious elite defenders that we have to worry about. And I am concerned to see how our O-line matches up with them, especially the right side of the O-line hasn't been great. With Marshall Yonder out, we're still seeing Tyre Phillips try to develop on the right guard position. Orlando Brown hasn't been as great without having Yonder next to him. And also at centre, Matt Skura has not been as good as he was prior to his injury last season. So the O-line is going to be massive here. It's going to be really, really important for them to step up, protect Lamar, and also create holes and gaps for the running backs. Mark Ingram will not be playing in this game, which I know some Ravens fans will be actually kind of happy about because they wanted him to have fewer carries. I will never be happy that Ingram or one of our players is out. But it is time for us to see what J.K. Dobbins can do. This is a massive game for J.K. Dobbins if he gets more carries and is really treated as a bell cow in this game. But it's also a big opportunity for Gus Edwards. He's played pretty well this season too. So we'll see what that running back tandem of Edwards and Dobbins can produce against the Steelers D. Another question for the Ravens is, with Yannick Ngakoue added to the defense, how will Wink Martindale utilize the pass rush? As I've said before, the Ravens have really built their sack numbers this season and general attacks on the QB by blitzing with defensive backs. Our defensive backs, we've got physical defensive backs like Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott in the secondary. Marlon Humphrey, we know, is as physical a corner as they come. And these guys are good at rushing the QB and getting to the QB. But now we've got Yannick Ngakoue, will Wink feel less pressure, excuse me for the pun, to actually blitz all the time and blitz with DBs? Maybe get to the QB without sending as many defenders. Now, the reason that's really important in this game is because if you look at Big Ben's stats this season, he's been excellent against the blitz. Right now, out of all qualifying QBs in the NFL, Ben Roethlisberger is first in completion percentage against the blitz. He's second in touchdown passes thrown against the blitz, and he's third in yards thrown against the blitz. So you don't really want to be sending too many blitzes against Ben Roethlisberger, and that's what our season has been predicated on so far. The defense has been sending blitzes every game, constantly. So we'll see what Don does with the defense and with Yannick and how that affects things, because the numbers show we shouldn't really be taking that approach with Ben. So fingers crossed, Wink's got something up his sleeve to confuse Ben and mess with the offense, because right now, Ben Roethlisberger, like him or not, and if you're a Ravens fan, you definitely don't like Ben Roethlisberger, he's playing well. He's not throwing the ball downfield as much as he has in years past, but he's really doing well in terms of completing his passes, leading an effective offense. Yeah, his yards per attempt are down, but he's playing well. And as you expect, a QB aging is going to have lower yards per attempt than a younger QB. It's just going to happen. That's to be expected. Most importantly, we've got to find a way of stopping him, harassing him, getting him out of his comfort zone, and just finding a way to disrupt the passing game of the Steelers. This is only Lamar's second start against the Steelers, because, of course, at the end of last season, week 17, the Ravens had already secured the number 1 seed in the AFC, and Lamar sat the game out. The Ravens won with RG3 starting at QB, but it means that Lamar's only started once against the Steelers so far in his career, and that was the week 5 game last season. Now, if you remember that game, it was a really tight game, 26-23 in overtime, but it was a rough game. And that, for me, was one of the most, of course it was one of the most frustrating games of last season to watch, because we only had 2 losses last season. But that was a rough game to watch, and it wasn't particularly enjoyable for me. It was a struggle to watch. Lamar did not look comfortable. He was harassed by the defense all game. He was sacked 5 times, threw 3 interceptions, and just did not look right. Eventually, of course, the team pulled out the win, but it'll be interesting to see how Lamar fares against that defense this game. Because if, frankly, Lamar throws 3 picks and gets sacked 5 times this time, Ravens are losing. Last year, Ben wasn't playing for the Steelers. Their offense was a dumpster fire. They were playing terribly at QB. Really bad QB play last season. And that's the reason the Steelers were not good last year. If the Steelers had decent QB play in that game, the Steelers would have won. As it is, the Ravens won, and strangely enough, because it definitely didn't look that way at the time, but that was the first game of the Ravens' 12-game winning streak. And we all know how the season ended, but at that point, the Ravens didn't look great, and it didn't look like it was going to be a historic season for the Ravens. So what I want to see in this game is Lamar stepping up, the O-line stepping up, protecting Lamar, giving him time to throw, and much more rhythm in the passing game than we've seen in the 6 games prior to this one. And on top of that, I just want to see our defense continue to hold up, continue to play really well, we've seen the Steelers wide receivers play pretty well this season. Chase Claypool, of course, you've all heard about him, the potential superstar Canadian wide receiver. But they've got other players playing well as well at the position. Juju's been quiet, but James Washington's made some plays. Deontay Thompson, I think his name, has made some plays. So the Steelers are a hard proposition on Sunday. And I don't know if I truly believe what I'm saying. I'm going to go with the Ravens win. I'm going to say the Ravens pull out a close one. I am really, really worried about the Steelers, and I think I give them more credit than maybe other Ravens fans do. But hey, I'm going to go with the Ravens win. Say we take this one. First team of this season to beat the Steelers and take their unbeaten record. And then go into the rest of the season with real confidence and knowing that we're in a better position to win the AFC North again. So anyway, that's my prediction. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've enjoyed the news this week of Ronnie re-signing with the team. Hope all of you really enjoy the game on Sunday, and that next week I can come back with a really positive game review talking about how well the team played against the Steelers and how wonderful Steelers Hate Week was for all of us. So anyway, hit me up with comments down below if you want to ask me anything, or if you've got any constructive criticism to offer about the channel, anything you want to say to me, fine. Just put it down below and I'll get back to you. Thanks so much for watching. Go Ravens.